I do remember Texas. Yes, that's rough for you. I'm so sorry. All right, we got to talk about it just a minute. Infant mortality rate rose 8% in the wake of Texas abortion ban, study shows. Are you shocked? Infants dying. Ever thought about how pro-life you are that you want your infant mortality rate to go up? Let's look into it. Why do you think that's happening, chat? In the wake of Texas's abortion ban, the state's infant death rate increased and more died of birth defects, a study published Monday shows. The analysis out of Johns Hopkins University is the latest research to find higher infant mortality rates in states with abortion restrictions. The researchers looked at how many infants died before the first birthday in Texas adopted an abortion ban in September 2021. They compared infant deaths in Texas to those in 28 states, some also with restrictions. Those researchers calculated that there were more than 216 more deaths in Texas than expected between March and December the next year. In Texas, the 2022 mortality rate for infants went up 8% to 5.75 per 1,000 deaths, compared to a 2% increase in the rest of the U.S., according to the study in the journal JAMA Pediatrics. Among causes of deaths, birth defects showed a 23% increase, compared to a decrease of about 3% in the rest of the U.S. The Texas law blocked abortions after the detection of cardiac activity, so heartbeat builds. This is what you hear is called the heartbeat builds, usually 5 or 6 weeks into pregnancy, well before tests are done to detect fetal abnormalities. So if you detect fetal abnormality in Texas, you're shit out of luck. That's just how it's gonna go. And these are killing kids, killing infants. So that's lovely. Also, 5 to 6 weeks, a lot of people don't even know they're pregnant until after that. It often takes longer than that to recognize you're pregnant. So, killing the children to save the children. So this is going to come out of like an understanding of, oh my God. So I know where the argument's going to go, right? It's going to be like, okay, we stopped these abortions, so we saved these lives, and some of those could not survive. And I hear you, but if you want to talk about happy, healthy families, well, first off, we just strongly disagree on bodily autonomy of pregnant people, right? That's going to be where the core disagreement is. But after that, if they want to claim that their family values and then put people through trauma, that's traumatizing. That's traumatizing. You know you're going to have this kid with this fetal abnormality, that it's likely that they'll die within the first year. Come on. Like, that is family trauma. You are putting your body through this pregnancy knowing that that might be the outcome. That's going to fuck people up. Ugh. No, this is God's plan. Well, God's plan is fucked up. Carlin said it best. Let's get it. They want to talk about strong families, and then they want to traumatize the fuck out of families. If you look into the research on it, the Turnaway study talks about this. It was a huge chunk of research done on abortion. The Turnaway study, focusing on women and people who got turned away from abortion compared to those who got their abortion. And the bonding with the kids that were then born was when they were trying, like the parents were trying to get an abortion, the bonding was a lot lower. And I imagine that's for a wide variety of reasons, right? A lot of this is, first off, wasn't ready to have a kid, might have had issues, complications in the pregnancy, might have been in a bad relationship that they were trying to leave already or planning on leaving. Like, there's so many factors that comes into this. You are just putting people in a really, really bad position. It's awful. Whereas the people who got their abortion and then had a subsequent child had much stronger bonding with that child. Turns out, when you can choose whether or not you're going to have a kid, outcomes for that kid are much, much better. Way better. Both with like not being in poverty, bonding with your parents, having more stable homes, less violence, losing access to having an abortion you're seeking. A lot of times, one of the core reasons tends to be financial. Another one is the partner. They don't trust the partner to be there, or the partner is violent. And it's not shown, like some conservatives will be like, well, this will keep people in families. They'll stay with the partner. They'll figure things out. That's not what happens. Within 2 years, like it takes a longer time, but once you hit the 2-year mark, the same percentage of people end up splitting because of shitty relationships and violence. The difference is the people who did not get the abortions now are tethered to this person because they have a kid. And that puts that kid and that person in contact more with the person that was being violent, leading to higher incidences of violence in them in that situation. It's really fucked up. So, hate to see it, but, just conservative things. Texas law blocked abortions after the detection of cardiac activity, has adopted a law that bans the procedure at any point in a pregnancy except for when a pregnant patient has a life-threatening condition. I think these findings can make clear the potentially devastating consequences that abortion bans can have, said co-author Susan Bell, a fertility researcher. So that's really bad. We hate to see that. Never fun talking about infant deaths, but it is a thing to be aware of. You don't have children if you can't afford it, and no social assistance and no abortions and no birth control. It feels like it adds up to class warfare. After all, the rich aren't really affected by these. Absolutely. If you have the money, you're still going to fly out and get your abortion. Realistically, that's what happens. It's poor people that tend to not be able to get their abortions because of these restrictions. And again, one of the core reasons that people opt for abortions is not being able to fund having a kid. Kids are, I don't know if you know what it takes to raise a mini human being. That shit's expensive as fuck. It's ridiculously expensive. So once when you look at the research, again, the Turnaway study, you see the people that were saying, oh shit, I don't want this kid because my finances are not ready for it, then are plummeted into further financial instability. It gets worse, which I don't know why we need research to show this. We have it, but also use your fucking brain. Kids are expensive. So they're throwing kids into poverty and families into poverty while putting them at higher risk for violence. Oh my God. And then they want to say, we care about family values. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're pro-birther. You're just trying to force people to have births. And I can't even say you're just trying to force people to have babies because they're dying anyway. A lot of it, we've got the abortions here pushing the mortality rate of infants up because people aren't able to get abortions that would have prevented those deaths. And it's just awful. It's awful. It's really, really sad. Ugh. It's not even about births. It's about control. The birds are a part of that. So it's frustrating. Let's take one quick look into it. Go over the key points and stuff. So the question they were examining, how did Texas's ban on early abortions in 2021 impact infant mortality in 2022? This cohort study of 90 for 720 recorded infant deaths in Texas in 28 comparison states found that the Texas abortion ban was associated with unexpected increases in infant and neonatal mortality in 2022. These findings suggest that abortion restrictions may have a negative spillover effect on infant health. Importance. Prior observational research has shown that infants born in states with more abortion restrictions are more likely to die during infancy. It's unclear how recent and more severe abortion bans in the U.S. have impacted infant mortality. Population-based cohort study of all recorded infant deaths from the state of Texas in 28 comparison states used a comparison interrupted time series analysis with augmented synthetic control approach and national birth certificates data from January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2022 to estimate the difference between the number of observed and expected infant and neonatal deaths and death rates among monthly cohorts exposed to Texas's SB 8, so the abortion ban. Exposure deaths in March 2022 were treated as the first cohort exposed to the Texas's SB8 abortion policy because these infants, if born for full term, were approximately 10 to 14 weeks gestation. Okay. Our outcomes were monthly counts and rates of infants aged under 1 year in neonatal. So neonatal being under 28 days. Deaths in the exposure period in Texas. In secondary analyses, annual changes in cause-specific infant deaths between 2021 and 2022 in Texas and the rest of the U.S. were examined. I'm sad I couldn't get a hold of the full paper because I would have loved to dig into, like, what states did they choose? I'd be curious the mindset behind that. Hopefully they got a good representative example they did say that some of them also had restrictions. I'm sure some of them had less, so that's good. But I would have liked to look at it a little closer. I'm so glad I'm living in California for the fact abortion is legal here. Maryland started funding getting nurses trained because they knew that more people would be coming here to get abortions done. And abortion is one of the safest procedures. Okay, so results. What we got. Between 2018 and 2022, there were a total of 102,391 infant deaths in the U.S., with 10,351 of these deaths occurring in the state of Texas, because Texas is fucking huge. So this abortion policy impacts a lot of people, right? That's like 10% of the deaths, impacting a lot of people here. Between 2021 and 2022, infant deaths in Texas increased from 1985 to 2,240, or 255 additional deaths. This corresponds to a 12% increase, whereas the rest of the U.S. experienced a comparatively lower 1.8 increase. On the basis of the counterfactual analysis that used data from Texas and eligible comparison states, an excess of 216 infant deaths was observed from March to December 2022, or a 12.7 increase above expectation. At the monthly level, significantly greater than expected counts were observed for 4 months between March and December 2022. April, July, September, and October. An analysis of neonatal deaths found somewhat similar patterns, with significantly greater than expected neonatal deaths in April and October 2022. Descriptive statistics by cause of death showed that infant deaths attributable to congenital anomalies in 2022 increased far more for Texas, 22.9% increase, but not the rest of the U.S., 3.1% decrease. So that's pretty rough. Conclusions and relevance. This study found that the Texas's 2021 ban on abortion in early pregnancy was associated with unexpected increases in infant and neonatal deaths in Texas between 2021 and 2022. Congenital anomalies, which are the leading cause of infant death, also increased in Texas, but not the rest of the U.S. Although replication and further analyses are needed to understand the mechanisms behind these findings, the results suggest that restrictive abortion policies may have important unintended consequences in terms of trauma to families and medical costs as a result of increases in infant immortality. TPR Jones, you want to talk about class warfare, huh? I'm sure those medical costs are just doing fine for people who maybe were thinking they didn't have the money to raise a kid. Maybe they were just like, I don't have the money to raise a kid right now. And then now they've got these, I'm sure, these very, very light medical costs, because that's what the United States is known for. I don't know about you, but I've been hearing all the time that it's super cheap to give birth in America. And not only that, but if something goes wrong, like, America's just like, you know, babe, we've got you. It's super cheap to have problems in America. So it's fine. It's fine. I'm sure it's fine. These findings are particularly relevant given the Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization U.S. Supreme Court decision and subsequent rollbacks of reproductive rights in many U.S. states, which many of you probably know. The Dobbs is what overturned Roe. Roe went down, and here we are.